If you're like me, you probably aren't really that big into seeing like next generation consoles and things like that come around as soon as they do. Like I think in particular this generation. I mean, if you think about how we kind of got started, it was like the pandemic and things like that. And it never really seemed to get started the way that some of these other generations have in the past. Like I know I personally feel like that. I always feel like kind of maybe we didn't get enough time with the current generation or whatever. I think it's pretty rare for me to think that hey, we really need something else. I think maybe the 360 was a time when I thought, hey, yeah, we really need to get another generation. You spend 7 years with something, and I guess maybe that can kind of be the case. But then I kind of regretted that once we ended up with like the Xbox One. Not because I thought the Xbox One was terrible or anything, but just because we developers were in such a role with the 360. They knew the hardware, they knew how to get games out fast. It was like boom, we get a Gears of War every other year, a Halo every other year, a Forza every other year, a Fable every other year. It was like that really kind of broke the cycle when that happened, and so I'm really kind of torn. Like I like latest and greatest stuff when it comes to hardware and gaming, but at the same point in time, I feel like we're sort of at this spot where we're not really seeing these huge gains with these consoles anymore. And I hate to be that guy, but it's just 100% true. There's not much. It's like, look at this hair follicle zoomed in at 20 times. It's so much better now. And it's like, this is where we're at now. It's lame. But anyway, I'm more focused on the games. I want to get into this, though, because this is very interesting. And I think some fans are going to really enjoy this. What's up, everybody? I'm Crap Gamer. This is Crap Gamer Reviews, back with another video. Thank you guys so much for checking it out. I appreciate it. Please like, share, subscribe. I would appreciate that as well. It helps out, and it means a lot to me personally. I do daily gaming content, so please, if you're looking for someone who does fun yet informative stuff every single day, look no further. That's what I try to do, and that's what I try to be. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. I have fun with this stuff. So anyway, like I was saying, I'm not really in a big hurry for next gen or whatever that is, whenever that is. Maybe in a couple years or whatever that could change. But for right now, I don't really feel that. And I just feel like we haven't even got what we were promised with this gen. So why would I be in a hurry for something later on, and so with that being said, I found this to be incredibly interesting because a big developer who makes Final Fantasy was kind of saying the same thing, and I just found that to be incredibly interesting for a lot of different reasons. I want to get into it and kind of talk about my thoughts on this a little bit more as well, just because I feel like at the end of the day, a lot of people are going to have different comments and different thoughts on this. But anyway, we're now almost 5 years into the Xbox Series X and S generation, which means in a normal kind of generation, we'd be well on the way to be getting exciting news about next gen hardware. However, this gen has played out a little bit differently. We're not the only ones that struggle to see what Xbox X Series X successor could really be able to bring to the table. Speaking in a new interview, Final Fantasy boss Mr. Yoshida was asked about whether Square Enix's Final Fantasy MMO would end up on next-gen consoles when they arrive, and he said we would work on those platforms if they launched, before going on to add that they feel like there's no real need to make new hardware right now. He said, and I quote, "When I look at things from a gamer's perspective, I feel like there's no real need to make new hardware because I think right now people are happy with the Xbox Series X, the PS5, or the Switch 2. And honestly, from a gamer's perspective as well, hardware is just expensive to buy." So in a time where Microsoft has recently raised the price of the Xbox Series X and S prices, with Sony just joining them as well, we can definitely see where Mr. Yoshida is coming from. Consoles like the Xbox Series X are currently more money than they were at launch almost 5 years ago, and we just don't see how next-gen console will be affordable and a generational leap in the near future. So it doesn't mean that it's not exciting to talk about the next gen of hardware. It's very interesting to hear about it, but it's just like if a console that's 5 years old and using tech that was already even older than that, then what in the world will the next generation bring? You know what I mean? And it's like Microsoft is trying to do apparently all these different stores and things like that. So if they're doing a bunch of stores and things, then what is that going to mean for the cost, right? Because how are they going to subsidize that? You know what I'm saying? I think that this is one of those things that is going to be very interesting, and it's going to be one of those things that we see, a lot of people kind of talk about, but it's just like I'm very curious to hear what fans have to say about it, because it is a super interesting kind of topic when you think about it, because are people really like super anxious to go out there and spend $1,000 on a new console? I just don't really see that. I think that a lot of people are kind of like me in this, and that we're just very much excited to kind of just play the games and things. And I think that's something that at the end of the day, we kind of have to kind of understand is going to happen one way or the other. We're going to get the games, but it's like we put so much focus on silly things, and it's like I remember going into this generation, it was ray tracing, and it's like, okay, well, most games didn't even bother with it. It didn't really change anything or prove anything, and now it's just like when I'm looking at, these supposed upgrades on consoles or PC even or whatever, they're like, look at this new thing, you pay $1,500 for this chip and you can, see the hair follicle better when you're zoomed in 30 times. And I'm just thinking, like, why are we so focused on this stuff? As a gamer, we should just go back to being focused on making great games. It's like we used to get so many great games back in the day, and now it doesn't really seem like we get those very often. So that's one of the things that I kind of look at, and I just kind of been disappointed in myself personally, because I just feel like, hey, I just really wish they would have focused on getting something like like game wise. It's like they rely heavily on older games. Microsoft and Sony both do this, like remasters, remakes, or whatever, and it's just one of those things that it's kind of disappointing, to say the least. But at the same point in time, like, I'm sure a lot of people will definitely feel like, hey, this is good news. It's not really a need for a new console. I don't even think there was much of a need for a Pro on the PlayStation side. Like, I'm curious to see how that thing's doing, because I just don't see many people, with one, first of all. And the other thing is, I don't see a ton of people out there just going, yeah, man, I really need to, get this Pro, so yeah, it's kind of strange. But, we'll see how this all works out at the end of the day, if Microsoft can get some things going for themselves in the future. I think that would be cool, but I'm not gonna sweat the small stuff. It's like, hey, if they come out with something in a couple years, great. But these things need to be a little bit affordable to me. If you got a family, if you got a wife, kids, or whatever, you want these things to be affordable, and I just cannot go out there and spend and justify $1,000 a piece for these consoles anymore. You know what I mean? That's crazy. It's like when I was younger, I'd save up and I could get one, and I would eventually end up with both or whatever, and all of them by the end of the generation. But it's just like one of those things where you're just kind of looking at things, and it's just a little bit weird to think that, hey, you got developers saying we don't need anything new. It's like, do you really want to hit that reset button? I know things are going to be backwards compatible or whatever, but do you really want to hit that? I feel like even though every generation they're like, developers are going to be able to make games super fast, and then it's like games are taking longer than ever. So that was a lie, So to me, anyway, it just seems like it's a little bit of a, I hate the reset button. I mean, if you think about this, like, this is why the 360 PS3 gen was so epic, in my opinion. Look at it. We had 4 Gears of War games, 3 Uncharted games, a couple of Fable games, a bunch of Forza games, 3 Dead Space games, the best Call of Duty games, 5 Assassin's Creed games, the 3 Mass Effect games, 3 Dragon Age games. It's like, and think about that, you know what I mean? And these were when the games were good. 3 BioShock games in a generation. Can you believe that? We haven't even got one this generation. We got 2 GTAs in that generation, 4 and 5, like arguably some of the best. It's crazy. And we got a Red Dead Redemption, right? It's like like developers knew what the hell they were doing back then, and it's crazy to think that they've kind of fallen off so hard. But anyway, I'm curious what you guys think about this. I will link this in the description. You can let me know what you think. I certainly do appreciate it, as I appreciate each and every one of you. If you guys check out the video, like I said, please like it, share it, subscribe. Would be awesome. I put in some work on these videos, and so it'd be nice if you guys would pay me back a little bit with just a like or a subscribe or whatever. Anyway, I'll catch you guys next time. Rack 'em up. Crap Gamer out.